Taurus, welcome to your relationship reading for August 2019. It's Raina here. So this is dusk, and therefore the locusts are out. So you might hear them even though the windows are closed. I got interrupted by something, so that's why the cards are already laid out. This reading is intended for people who are either in relationships that are struggling or that are separated. Well, I guess that's a relationship that's struggling, but who may be trying to get back with an ex-partner, so they have that connection to somebody. The heart of the matter is the Tower card. The Tower card is connected to some kind of a sudden shock, a change that you did not necessarily expect. This is something that, as the month of August begins, that you might be kind of like dealing with, focusing on. This may be the cause of why there are problems in your relationship. So the typical one is you found out that a partner was cheating, or a partner has come to you and said that they want to leave, or you want to leave. Usually it's going to come from the other party because that's where the surprise comes in. Now, Taurus, I just want you to know that when I hear people say I never saw it coming or things like this, my feeling is that, yes, of course, sometimes people don't tell us when they're unhappy in relationships. But I think a lot of times there's also a lack of connection between the two people in general. Because even if somebody doesn't tell you something, if you're really tuned into somebody, you know when they're not being themselves, when they seem distant. Even if you notice that and you say what's wrong and they say nothing and you know there's something wrong, you don't just like go on about your day or your life. Obviously, if you really consistently sense this from the other person, you're going to try to get to the bottom of it. So to me, the Tower card in relationships more times than not is probably denial on the person who would consider themselves the victim, where they simply did not see the warning signs, or even the other person may have made statements. And, with Taurus, it's not the same thing as Pisces. With Pisces, if somebody tells them something that they don't want to hear, they will just filter that out and create their own reality. With Taurus, it's simply like an ironclad gate, or not even a gate, just like a wall, where if you don't want to hear something, you just don't hear it at all. It's like you just kind of like block it out. And that is due to your own, maybe in some cases, rigidity, stubbornness. But stubbornness can be a form of strength as well, where it allows you to kind of soldier on, to function. And, there are some Taurus people that can endure enormous stress because of this ability. So it's not, by no means am I suggesting that it's just some kind of like a weakness. It can actually be a strength in certain cases. However, you do have to be willing to open your mind and also your eyes when things are happening in relationships. You can't just refuse to see what's in front of them. In the past position, we have the 10 of Swords, which is hilarious in this unknown tarot deck. I mean, right between the eyes. It doesn't get any more vivid. The 10 of Swords is a card of betrayal. So this narrows it down. This talks about what may have happened. Remember that this is a general reading. So, some people say, you didn't cover my particular situation. Well, every Taurus person isn't going through the same thing. So let's apply some common sense here. I'm not trying to apply this reading to everybody, but I do try to consider different possibilities to appeal to the most people possible. But in this case, it's pretty obvious that this is a card of betrayal. The number 10 is the end of a cycle. And by the way, the interruption I was talking about was a train, and now here we have another train. And I'm not going to, I'm hoping that this will be a short train because I can't keep turning this on and off. I apologize for the interruption. The number 10 is the end of a cycle. It's a number of completion. And it's interesting about the number 10 because in numerology, when you have a double-digit number, you reduce it to a single-digit number unless it's a master number like 11 or 22. But so the number 10 can be reduced to 1. And 1 is a number of beginnings. So we can look at the 10 as an ending as well as a beginning. But definitely, in terms of betrayal, it's like, okay, that's it. I've had enough. That kind of thing. And that would be kind of how I would see Taurus approaching a betrayal. Is saying, I've had enough, and maybe having endured a lot, and then finally having enough. And so the Tower could simply be that you just, in a moment's notice, make that decision that you are through with a relationship. It doesn't mean, though, that you have left the same space as that other person. You may just know that you're out of love, that it's like snapping out of this spell that you've been in. And so the Tower is actually a card of release. It actually has a positive connotation like that, where it's almost like getting, sprung out of jail or something. And it's a prison that you have imposed upon yourself. And so that makes it that much more of an important event. So there's a liberation associated with the Tower card. But it's not necessarily something that people are eager to experience for obvious reasons, because it may be something that is unpleasant, that forces you out of your comfort zone. And again, because of the eclipses in July, and even some people may have felt them as early as June, there's this tendency to have, these life-changing experiences, and this may serve to keep you, to force your hand in a sense. And of course, it's not just happening to you, but it's happening to the other person. You're both experiencing changes. The higher message is the Seven of Wands. In this particular deck, I think of the eternal flame. And, I was just remarking, I wonder if it was for the last video I did for you. I'm not sure. But I was talking about how when you learn how to read tarot cards, at least when I was doing it through, just reading different books on the subject, they were talking about you learning the official meanings and then taking the illustrations and kind of like really connecting with them yourself, like what comes to mind. So I said the eternal flame. The Seven of Wands is totally different in the Rider-Waite deck. This Wild Unknown Tarot deck has its own set of symbols. And some people, even I, scratch my head sometimes about like where are they getting, some of these ideas. Not all the cards. Some of the cards are ingenious as far as I'm concerned, and I love the artwork in all of them, but just the fact that I don't always understand where they're getting the connections, where they're drawing the connections. But with the Seven of Wands as the eternal flame, I think about within ourselves. Wands connect to fire energy. So it's no wonder that they have like a flame in the first place. But the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, all represent the signs that are very much self-aware. And some of the keywords that we could associate with fire energy is confidence, a sense of self, and creative self-expression. And the eternal flame to me is always knowing that you are loved and that you are valuable to life. That there's nobody in this world that doesn't matter. And that doesn't, you know what I mean? In terms of like, some people feel I'm not contributing to society because I don't work, or I don't, these kinds of thoughts that go through people's heads. I'm old. I'm not really productive in terms of how society sees me. So therefore, I don't have value. No, 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 no. And the thing is, in relationships, people very easily come into relationships with that lack of self-esteem. And they're looking to the other person to provide it for them. And that is a mistake. Yes, of course, we should be with people who value us. That goes without saying. But they can never inject us with self-esteem simply by loving us. And they can never, remove self-esteem by leaving us. So that's something that you have to have. You have to nurture that inner flame that never goes out, that never stops shining brightly in the world. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's really true. And perhaps you have had your flame extinguished because of another person, and yet it took a lot for you to, it's almost like having to have this calamity, if you will, to see the light and see like, oh gosh, yes, come to your senses. This is one of those cards. I think it was somebody who was a Taurus. Somebody wrote to me the other day and said, I don't like this deck that I'm using right now. And, I was thinking, well, I know some of the imagery is kind of weird and creepy, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out why somebody has to tell me that, like I'm going to stop using it because one person, or even if 10 people said they don't like it. Okay, what do you think about this card? How do you like it? I think this is hilarious. This is the Nine of Swords, and what it represents is anxiety. So what is a better depiction of anxiety than all this kind of icky, it's so scorpionic because it's like all the stuff below the surface that's kind of disgusting. And, and really, if you think about it, that is a perfect depiction of anxiety. Because we're complicated beings. We have, sometimes we have very uncomfortable emotions based upon what's going on in life. And, you may have rage about your partner's behavior. You may feel completely mistreated. You may, in some cases, feel vengeful about it. And I think that those worms, because it just seems so unfair if you have given of yourself to a person and they have mistreated you, that can feel very unfair. But the thing about it is, when you can detach yourself, which is, easier said than done, but when you can see the bigger picture, you understand that it was a dance. It was always a dance between you and that person. and that there was something inside of you that attracted this person in the first place. And people like to say these days, oh, that's blaming the victim. Well, what about if there aren't any victims? There's a saying that there are no victims, only volunteers. I don't know who created that saying and what they meant, but spiritually, that would certainly be accurate from my understanding, is that we choose our experiences, even the ones that seem unthinkable, because we are trying to gain different perspectives. And some people think it's punishment. No, it's perspective, not punishment. It's to know how somebody else feels. Yes, maybe we did the thing that we are experiencing now. Maybe you cheated on somebody in another lifetime, and now you are the one experiencing it. Doesn't mean it's punishment. It means that we're experimenting with this thing called life, and it's like we're researchers, and we're learning how it feels to be in different positions and gaining different vantage points. And if only we could detach that much from these painful experiences to be able to see them in such a higher perspective, it would be great. But yes, the Nine of Swords, anxiety can keep you from moving forward. But also, my feeling is that this may not even be anxiety from this situation, but that you have carried with you for many years. And it's almost like if you've had trust issues, Taurus, then it's like, see, this is, I knew that this would happen because you already anticipated it. I'm not saying all of you, I'm saying the ones that sometimes when people have trust issues and then they experience betrayal, they can feel like vindicated, like, yes, people cannot be trusted. Well, they may have been overly controlling and, micromanaging their partner because they were so afraid of their partner cheating or leaving. And that drove the other person away. So there's always a dance. And it's important to not take all the responsibility, but not just live in the place of blame, because that keeps people stuck. And it also is not true. There's more to the story than whatever is going on. And that should be a good thing to hear. The advice, or what's coming in as advice, the Fool card. This is, we have here a little, what is this? Is this a duckling? And, this kind of has the springtime colors, kind of Eastery colors. That is like the colors of renewal. And actually, now that I think about it, even in the Rider-Waite deck, there's like a yellow background. And yellow is the third chakra. So yellow is the color of empowerment, self-empowerment, and power in general. Of course, gold is yellow. So there's that connection of having money and having power. But this is the 0. So this is like pressing the reset button on your life. And just kind of like looking at ways that you can start over again, where you do not have to reference the past. You know what? When I was laying out these cards, the first 4 cards almost seemed like a bad dream. And then we have the Fool, which is like the first card of the Major Arcana, 0, the unknown quantity. And then the Ace of Cups, new love. So it's almost like pressing the reset button, and all of that bad stuff. Well, the 7 of Wands isn't bad, so I shouldn't say that. But the 3 cards that are speaking to situations surrounding you in a rather challenging way. And then we have the 0, the blank slate, the new beginning. And so embrace new beginnings. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in the drama of the situation. Excuse me. The Ten of Swords is talking about the end of a cycle. The Nine of Swords keeps you recycling, not ending the cycle, but recycling the misery. So it's really up to you, Taurus, to press the reset button and choose to move on. And when you do, you open up yourself to new love. Ace of Cups is new love. It's love, it's cups, it's emotion. It's not Ace of Pentacles or Ace of Wands, which would be more like an affair, fiery love. This is heartfelt love, soulmate stuff. And once you make space for it, it can come into your life. So go with the flow of what the Tower represents and realize that this is the season for endings, but also the season for new beginnings. Okay, that's what I have for you, Taurus. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. My website is rainamoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.